Hey guys, what is up? This is Pants Our Dragon, and today we'll be doing the top 5 best top laners for solo queue. So I haven't done a tier list in the top lane since patch 5.14 or 13, and like a lot of things are changing, especially with new champions popping up, and so I do feel like there's a lot of top tier champions at the moment, and expect to see a lot of new champions in this tier list. And with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first up we have Garen. So I'm pretty positive he's a pretty good champion right now. He's kind of meh in the early game, but when it comes to the mid game and late game, he definitely got a huge buff. As he does a lot of true damage, his ultimate becomes true damage when you're on a villain, and his E does a hell lot more damage. Although you don't have tenacity coming from the W anymore, and your silence duration is a bit lower, it's still fine as the compensations to his E and the new villain mechanic is really good. I guess the only problems he would have is with some matchups, but I think that's fine. And one of the good things about him is that he is very easy to play. Next up we have Riven. So nothing really changed here, she's still strong, so that's why she's here. She kinda got an indirect buff with armor items being nerfed, but it's a small buff, so she's still gonna be here. Just remember, if you aren't a Riven main or you're not that great at this character, I would not recommend playing her since it does take a high skill cap to play her, since you have to know how to trade with her and auto cancellation and all that jazz and the combos. And yeah, if you are a Riven main, you can easily carry yourself up the ladder. Next up is Fiora, and she's a pretty interesting champion right now. She's very strong in her right hands, as there's a lot of skill involved with using her W and using her R. And one of her best traits is that she snowballs incredibly hard onto her enemy, as she has really good scaling for AD. Her trading potential is super strong as she restores health every time she trades, and again, very hard to trade with her when her W is up. So yeah, once you figure out this champion, she becomes super strong. Although I'd say in teamfights, it's a bit hard for her to get in since she can be easily boosted out. And it's also pretty hard to get 4 stacks onto somebody and proc your ultimate, especially when there's like 5 guys trying to peel you off someone. But yeah, right now I think she's super strong, and once people are starting to pick her up, you'll see a lot more of her. Next up is going to be Aurelia. So she's here at number 2. It's not that she got worse, it's just there's a better champion than her. So I said this a lot in previous videos about Aurelia, but basically 2 second stun on her E, low cooldown, really good burst potential with her W, trust Triforce, can like flash E onto squishies and basically 100 to 0 them really fast, and gets a huge power spike once she gets her Triforce. Honestly, it's a pretty good carry champ, and I recommend for you to play her if you're really good at her. I mean, if you're mediocre at her, I think it's fine. Like, I suck at her, so I don't like to play her. And at number 1 is going to be Gangplank. You're probably wondering, what the fuck, why is he here at number 1? And I'll tells ya. Okay, so those barrels, they hurt a ton if you get hit by it. Do you remember when I said when people could figure out how to use his barrels really efficiently, he'd probably be a pretty good champion? Yeah, well, guess what? People have figured out how to use his barrels really efficiently, and now he's really strong. These barrels, once you have Triforce and Ghostblade and I guess an Infinity Edge, do like 1000 damage, and has 60 armor pen, so tanks will even get hurt by the barrels. And yeah, he becomes really powerful in the mid game and late game with these barrels. His ultimate is actually really good too. In fact, it's one of the best ultimates in the game in my opinion. And of course you can upgrade it, so that's a good thing. And back to his barrels, when you're contesting a dragon or baron and you have these barrels up, you can zone off the enemy, because if they come near you, you can just play dominoes and chunk them for like half their health. In the laning phase, it's pretty hard for a tank to kill him since he has sustain with his W. He also has a lot of zoning potential with these barrels if he hides them in a bush. And of course, it's a good escape since it does slow enemies, and he can put that down to slow the enemy jungler. But yeah, the counterplay to Gangplank is obviously just looking out for his barrels. And I think people notice, but people tend to forget that he can extend the range of his barrels, you know, by playing dominoes and get caught off guard and take like fuck tons of damage. Oh, and also his barrels cause wave clear, so it's pretty hard to siege on him too. That's like something the old Gangplank didn't have, and now this guy has it, so it's even better. But yeah, he's a really fun champion. He has lots of base damage. I don't even think it matters if he like kind of goes 0 and 3 in lane. Barrel's base damage is like super good enough. Of course, he gets a huge power spike when he gets his Triforce and Ghostblade. But yeah, he's just a really good champion and also really annoying to play against. Next up, we're going to be doing some honorable mentions, and first up is going to be Rumble. Rumble takes a hit in this patch where his cooldown on his ultimate is reduced at like all ranks. So there's bigger time windows where he doesn't have his ultimate, and that's a big impact on those team fights. But his base damage didn't get nerfed, Lissandra didn't get nerfed, so like in that sense he's still a good champion. But I mean, if I were a top lane main, I'd probably pick something else right now. Next up is going to be Hecarim and honorable mentions, and honestly, this is what I'm going to say. I haven't seen him in my solo queue games for a long time, and like, yeah, I don't know where the fuck he went, but he just like stopped appearing in the games. I know he's still a good champion because nothing really happened to him. The Frozen Heart nerf maybe hurt him a bit, but there's also Dead Man's Plight, which I do think has a lot of synergy because of the momentum building and the slow. But yeah, I just don't see him anymore, so he'll be left in honorable mentions unless he becomes a really popular pick. Next up is going to be Lissandra. I feel like she might come back this patch as they added healing on her ultimate, which just means like more survivability in a sense. The healing is like 200 base healing at level 16 and like 100 at level 6, plus it has an AP ratio of 0.3, and of course is increased by how much hit point you're missing. It's not only that, I feel like with the AP item changes she hasn't been played since, so maybe she'll get some interesting item build, but this is all theory, and she might have a place back in the meta. Next up is going to be Shen. Shen has become really popular these days, as I'm seeing him a lot in the top lane, and what I'm seeing is he kind of sucks in early game if he doesn't have that lead, but once he gets that lead onto the enemy, he can definitely manhandle his lane. But if he doesn't get any help or whatever, it's fine because he still has his ultimate to help his bot lane get ahead and, you know, turn things around. Usually it's in the bot lane, of course, sometimes it's mid, but most case scenarios you'll probably see 4v4s at like 10 minutes in the bot lane. And for people who forget about Shen, they're in for a big surprise when you come out. The only thing is there's team coordination needed, but if you just spam your ping and saying you're coming, they'll know what to do. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment below on who you think is the #1 top laner and why. And I'll see you guys next time. Any sort of constructive criticism is